We have known back then that we would be sitting now and celebrating, the 25 years. And when I go online, I see the omnipresence of SWAT Kats and the fans and the response. We wouldn't have never thought about that. That show, that brand of SWAT Kat is extremely important for us. It's very close to our heart because it was our first break in Hollywood. It was a labor of love. So it's a long time, so I'll try to remember as much. 99% are sketches that I've done from my own archives, but I see here a few that are from the production. So I don't know how I end up having the original drawings here, but if anybody recognizes who did those drawings, I'll be more than happy to bring them back to them, the crew at Hanna-Barbera when we're doing SWAT Kats. So here I can see that these are some preliminary sketches of Mayor Manx. Pretty cool. It's pretty fun stuff. Here's our numerous sketches. Might have been for, I don't know, maybe it was just some incidental characters. I can't see any specific here. Here it looks like it's some early sketches for the SWAT Cat. It's funny because there's a Ninja Turtle drawings here. So I don't know what's the reference, but it's kind of funny. So this is from, it's starting to be like some model sheets. It starts to have like a lineup design sheet here. Early sketches of, I think, the garage. So this drawing is part of a poster. So it's an original drawings that was done for one of the main poster that we use for presentations of SWAT Kats. So presentation we would do to the Turner executive, and but also was done before that actually. So probably some the poster were done for some meetings, pitch meetings. These sketches from some kind of creatures. I don't recall which creatures. It might have been just a creature from one of the episodes. Not related to episode, but just like, the styling or something like that. I don't think it's related to one specific episode. So there's a bunch of little sketches that I was doing for the style guide. So as the series was being made, we were preparing a style guide for the licensing and merchandising people. So we're starting to do some posing for that here as well. Yeah, those are early sketches that were mainly used for the style guide. Was pushing the style here. I think an early rendition of Dark Cat. So I would do a lot of those sketches in ink versus to do them in pencil. So doing in ink would be more direct. Just whatever comes up, it's more direct. I like working like that. Even to this day, I do a lot of those sketches in ink. And then when I have something that I like, then I might go over with a pencil or blue pencil, red pencil to get more defined. But early sketches I usually do them in ink like that. So here there's a lot of I think at this stage of those sketches here, we were, I think, going down into the second seasons. So I was doing materials for like the style guide as well. I think this is what this page is referring to. This as well. I haven't seen this drawing for a long time. Yeah, all those sketches refer to the style guide. We use in the style guide we use what we call a thick and thin line. So it's so it shows well on the products. So it's kind of there's a little bit different, but it's consistent with what the brand is about. So here's some sketches. I think those sketches were in reference to some promotional art that was done at one point. This is as well some designs not related to the series specifically, but what I recall, I think this was for some promotional art. Well, the Temporal Cat, well, I did a lot of designs for that. I did tons of sketches because I really wanted to be unique. The final design that it's on the model sheet, I don't know exactly like who would do, in the crew, who would do the final, like final. So, but it was based on a lot of, most of the sketches, tons of sketches that I've provided. But I don't know exactly like the final line art, in the productions who was doing at the time. There was inspiration from the Tomcat. There was inspiration from the Russian MiG. The takeoff landing was from the Harrier. So there's a lot of influence, a lot of designs, but it went through a lot. I remember very well. Here's some interesting kind of a little rough sequence of a pass by, where the jet is kind of passing by, and then a follow-up scene where it's kind of from outer screen flying by. So it's pretty cool. So this is again a poster art. So we did quite a bit of poster art. That's how we was used to sell the show with other piece of artwork. But that was the strengths we had in me pitching the show. So I had a lot of visual to support what I was. So it was important to have those big posters. And I've got them all now, still have those original posters, but this is the ink version of one of them. This is an earlier rendition of SWAT Kats logo, very army type. It was not meant to be the final logo. It was just meant to be a logo to put on a poster. I knew very well it was going to be changed. The logo went through tons of versions. Anyway, so at one point I kind of left the eyes out, but I kept kind of the silhouette of a cat. So the triangle is really like army-like, and I wanted to have the ears. So that's what really stuck. I really wanted to have the claws. So the claws was good to have it for the K letter. And this is pretty much how it came about. But man, it went through a lot of designs for that. Those sketches here are those were fun. In order for us to explain that the SWAT Kats had, besides they had a jet, but the jet had a lot of weapons and gadgets and things like that. You try to explain this to people, and so I had to make design of that. So I had a whole, not just one, I had a series of boards that would explain what missiles or what the gadgets are about. So I had all boards, like one would be the Octopus Missile. So I clearly showed during the pitch. So when I say, well, SWAT Kats, they had the Turbo Cat jet, and the jet as full of gadgets and weapons, and then so the kind of gadget like that. So I would show the example of the Octopus Missile. So it looks like a missile, looks really cool with some design that makes octopus, and then the transformation in phases, and then it grabs the bad guys. So I had a few examples of that. And that was always a winner. Every time I would pitch this, it was super clear in their mind what the gadgets were all about. So it illustrates very well what I was talking about. I had like the ejector seats, so when I was explaining that the ejector seats would eject, the seat would eject, and then, propeller would come out, and then they would fly on their own. That as well, was really cool. I had a whole cross view of the garage. So we're explaining, that the garage was like kind of a junkyard where they work, and then they go to the second level, they change, and then third level where it's the takeoff platforms on the ground. All of that was designed in presentation boards, in inking, so it can be clear, super well, so people can understand what we're talking about. So all the sketches, this is what it's all about. The spider web missile. So it was always 1, 2, 3 phases, like how the missile looks like, the transformation, and the end result. We always loved gadgets and vehicles and things like that. The cement machine gun. I don't know if I would use it now in the new SWAT Kats Revolution, because I think it's a little bit cartoon, but it was cool though. It was original. Yeah, Slicer Missile was a good one. And so we had a secret hangar. So those here. This is ink sketches of we did some really nice boards of the villains, because the villains are important parts of the show. So I wanted to show, like, in the pitch I was basically saying that here's was my pitch. Like Batman, SWAT Kats will have really bigger than life recurring villains. We knew back then that television is about characters, and as much as you love the good guys, when you have really cool bad guys with really good and strong personalities, you will want to see them again. So ideas, originally we had way more than that. We had like a kung fu type of guy. That was really cool. He had this motorcycle with blades on. We never used that one, but we'll keep it. We'll keep it for the new one. We had Nimbus as well. I think that I can't recall what he was doing, but it was pretty cool. We had an army type of villain, and so those didn't make the cut in the series, but it's reserved in the bank. So it's a color sketch. So kind of a color patterns, how I will look. Here I did it for the helmet. This is a design that I did specifically for the style guide. It was part of the folder. We did a very cool folder for the style guide. This is a very small thumbnail sketch. It was a pencil sketch that was used. What we did is that we bought quite an expensive photocopier machine that has really strong black. It provides really strong black. So I would do pencil sketches that I would put into the Xerox machine that we had, and then what came out of it was something that had textures and feel, and I would color on top of that. And those were used basically just to give a color template, just a feel of how we wanted the show to look like, comic book style. This was an initial drawings made for marketing. So at that stage, the show was picked up, and we needed to do some kind of finished artwork, but it was not really finished. It looks finished, but it was not part of the productions. We were still in the process of the production, but the consumer product licensing people needed some kind of artwork. So we provide this piece of artwork here, so they can initiate initial meetings for the show. So so after the many sketches for the posing. So here are some of the sketches that I kind of like to be part of the style guide. It's funny because I did the drawings, but Dale Barris, which was a very famous Marvel comic artist. I think now he works with one of the big studios. I don't know which one. But anyway, I like Dale a lot. So we contracted Dale to do all the inking for the style guide. So I did all the drawings, but Dale did all the inking of it. Some more drawings for the style guide. That was a promotional art as well for presentation purposes. Oh, um, so at one point as well during the course of making the first season, we needed additional material. So on the marketing side, so we asked Neal Adams. So I think Neal Adams did at least 2, 3 pieces, full color pieces of SWAT Kats, and the one that he did here, um, I used it as because I thought the drawing was really really cool, and I thought the action was really really cool. So in the course of the second season's main title, I used this one as an inspiration where the creature comes out and the jet goes on just by the mouth just before getting close. So it was inspired by this drawing of Neal Adams. So this was an article in the animation magazine that we had back, I think it was in 1994, at least just prior to the release of the series. And they asked us to do a little something. So we did a little piece where we see a shot of Montreal, we see the Olympic Stadium, and then we see the address. So 9221 Berry Street is where we live. This is where we created SWAT Kats. And so we see the shadow of me and Yvonne at a drawing table. This is actually the window of my bedroom, which was also my drawing studio. And it's exactly how it was. And then and I put ourselves with little cat ears. So the Tremblay brothers, the Radical brothers. So equipped with their drawings and presentation, they jumping on the jet to Hollywood. Let's kick some Hollywood tail. And here they take off, to Hollywood. It's a funny bit. Some more design concept ideas for the Turbo Cat. So those drawings, again, those are action scenes, part of the style guide we can see here the inking job of Del Barris. Here again. So those are actual car designs in the show. So those are from the production models. I had done a bunch of sketches for the production team, to be inspired for the style. So wanted to have and the inspiration for the vehicles were the lowrider, massive American graffiti type of car, but the massive one, the one we call the Dolphins. And always loved those cars. Small windows, heavy metal, big round shape with very very low ground. So I really like when I really like that style. So I did a lot of sketches for that, and I provide those sketches to the production team, and then everything else was based about that. So I look now at the tow truck. It's still very very cool. I love that style. So the process of the original designs all the way to the productions, it went through a lot of phase. Even in the production from season 1 to 2, there's this, there's been involvement. But if we look at the very 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 first conception, remember, the show was created from a line of sleepwear that we had done with a big cat, and that cat was really really cartoony. From there, we added, and it looked like extreme early versions of T-Bone. And then we added Razor back then. So they were cartoon version, and the show was meant to be originally like a cartoon comedy with action. The name of Razor and T-Bone, we wanted to be one called Chuck and the other one be called Yeager, in honor of Chuck Yeager. Which obviously was the famous experimental pilot. So I remember the studio inquiries made to his representation, and they did not allow to use the name. That was a bummer, because it would have been a nice a reference to the series. there was always a comedic aspect to it, but the tone became a little bit more toward comic books. It looks like comic book, but they were not human, so they didn't look like X-Men or those kind of guys. So they were anthropomorphic animals, anthropomorphic cats, some comedy, which is always fun, and then really over the edge, kind of action, not violence, but just really cool action. And the more and more we went, the more and more we pushed that. SWAT Kat was a whole universe. It was a whole cat world. The Mickey Cat City was a whole world. So everything was new. Everything was, so there was a lot of things evolve. Style, the genre. I mean, everything evolved about it. So it's different than when it's just one type of character. Here was a whole world. So it's kind of normal that it goes through the process until we basically had something that we were happy. And then when Turner bought Hanna-Barbera, then we had basically that kind of one style that was the basis of the series. Hanna-Barbera, at one point they were talking to do a co-production with France. So they flew us to Paris to have a few meetings over there. As we were doing those meetings, we were in pre-production. So we were doing pre-productions for the designs, and the design of the jet were not complete. So we were spending time in the hotel. It was our first time in Paris. Never been to Paris before. We're stuck in the hotel, and here I am, sketching tons of sketches for the jet that I was going to be faxed. Back then it was a fax, to be faxed to Hanna-Barbera. I think only a few hours we say, well, we need to get out of here and at least see what Paris is about. We just came out of the room. We went outside a little bit, walking around. But man, first time in Paris, and we're stuck in the hotel. But that's how committed we were. I didn't care at the end of the day, because we said, well, the jet's gonna stay forever. I can always come back to Paris. I think for us, when I think back of the time of making the show, one of the things that was the most amazing for us is that being there at Hanna-Barbera studio, just being there and doing a production, it was the most amazing thing. And it's something that we didn't take for granted. Joe Barbera and William Hanna had invented a medium. They had invented a medium of simplicity with very limited animation. But because of that, they have created a new genre. They had to focus on personalities and characters. And because the medium was television, and in television, the most important aspect is you have very strong personality and characters that you can identify with, they had invented that medium for television and animation. And Joe Barbera and William Hanna being actually at the studio in their offices, and they would come around and we would stop by, we would talk, we'd see them. Just that is when I think about it again, was such a privilege that it's one of the greatest memory. It was amazing. We had a lot of kind of inquiries about the process. Why is it take so long to get SWAT Kats Revolution on back on the series and things like that? I think I would like to cover a little bit that the process of what it takes to get a show green light to go into production, because I can understand there's some frustration. It takes time and it's a long process. It is a frustrating process. I think any producers in Hollywood would agree with me. But the key thing is that to always keep moving forward. So the process, why it takes so long? First of all, there's many factors. There's factors of getting the right creative in place, getting the right partner in place. Making an animated series is very expensive, so it takes financing. So the hard part is the financing. We stumbled upon many roadblocks. There was some occasions that the prospect was extremely good, and then things happened. It took us from the time, we saw the early sketches date 29 years ago. And those are probably not even the first sketches. Probably 30 years ago, the first sketches were done, or the concept was created of SWAT Kats. It took basically 4 to 5 years to get into production. I was reading an article recently about the creator of Powerpuff Girl, that it took him 5 years to sell and have the productions of the Powerpuff Girl into production. So it's a process that it's long, it's arduous. There's a lot of things we cannot disclose, but things are looking extremely good, and we are very optimistic. Yes, it takes time. It took 7 years for us to sell our primetime animated series, and it took 4 or 5 years to get SWAT Kats original on. We will get this show on the air, because every show that we are passionate about, we make them happen. Our challenge is to make it as soon as possible, because I see those brand out there, those like Deadpool and things like that, which were comics, that were popular, but not necessarily to certain extent. But I see all those projects out, and we're dying, my brother and I, to bring SWAT Kats the way we envision it, with those new technologies, those new platforms, so people can discover, on a massive scale, SWAT Kat as the brand new franchise. So stay with us, guys, and we will for sure have news, very good news for you guys. So thank you to support, and thank you to be there as well.